Today, I'm going to talk about ethics in games studios. As you can see here, an approach to a healthier understanding of game development. Why I chose this topic? Because when I founded Three of Cups Games in March, I found that it was really important to build a healthier system for developing games. So my first value when I founded my own studio was absolutely to have more ethics involving in the game development itself, because I thought that it was fundamental for making better games, and also to have super strong morals and to have super clear what we wanted to achieve um, with our games in terms of making a better society and obviously consequently to make a better world through our video games. So a little bit about me. If you don't know me, is well, as I'm the CEO and creative director at Three of Cups Games, and I'm also working at the moment for external studios. I'm working for Misatio, which is a lovely organization in Finland, in Helsinki, that make games around um, socials and ethics as well for vulnerable children. And then I'm also the lead game designer at Angene Sequa Studios for a game called Dordogne that will be on Nintendo Switch next year. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about in this presentation is to talk about this journey that is working, that is a little bit a journey of self-growth as well. And I found that many of the problems that we have in our work environments come from experiences that we experimented in the past, and that many things that happen in the work environment happen because of things that we live in our childhood, or personal problems that we obviously carry to our job. Because I don't know if in other countries, but in Spain, my home country, is super common to say that you shouldn't carry personal stuff to your work environment. But honestly, who is able to do that? Because I find it impossible. If you are struggling in your personal life or with your mental health, or a family member is super sick, it's impossible that you just trespassing your office work, you're going to forget all of this and just focus on what you need to do that day for that company, that maybe if it is the could be the best place in the world, but obviously a company is not your family and the stuff that you really care about. So it's absurd to pretend that people forget about what they really care about in life when they are at work. So yeah, so this is a journey that starts with us, and these are some of the things that I struggle with as well when I in my work environment. So stuff like I have insecurities. I tend to compare myself to others. I don't know how to set up boundaries. I have a low self-esteem. I don't know how to take care of myself, and I'm too harsh on myself. So let's see the first one. I have insecurities. I was trying to analyze in the last couple of months why we have sometimes terrible leaders in the work environment. And obviously, if you think about it, leaders are also human beings. So they are also struggling with many things as we do as well. And one of the things that people sometimes struggle with when they are not very good towards other people is that they have lots of insecurities. So many people, to feel better themselves, try to diminish other people. And one of these things come from insecurities. But you don't need to be like a bad person in your work environment to feel insecure. Like, for example, in the case of game designers and everyone in the games industry, we come with many insecurities because it's a job that is very abstract in many ways. So we tend to think, oh, what I'm doing is not good enough, or this has any sense, or my colleagues are going to think that this is nuts, or even my boss is going to fire me because this is not good enough, or I didn't work enough. So then with these insecurities come other super complicated stuff that we'll see later. Then the second thing is I tend to compare myself to others. Like, we do this all the time, not only in our works but in our lives. We compare ourselves to people on Instagram, completely strangers on social media, because each person has more followers. So we tend to think that that kind of people is more valuable than we are, just because of that a silly number. Then this game designer is better than I am because that person is able to work 10 hours per day and I'm only able to work 4. Like many things that we can put on the plate to compare ourselves to others. Obviously, this is not good, and this is going to affect our work a whole lot. And one of the things that I've been learning recently is that many people are hiring us and working with us because of how we are. So a problem that I have as a game designer has been that I, for example, don't do many oftenly flowcharts, and other work colleagues do that uh, in the game design department. And I was thinking that, well, I'm maybe not good enough if I'm not good at making flowcharts. But then, talking to friends, I figured out that I'm good at many other things, and necessarily I don't need to make flowcharts to be better. So because maybe my employers having me on board because of my any other skills, not flowcharts. So we need to find our strengths and to explode them instead of blaming us because of what we don't have, because all that stuff is also we are also able to train that, so it's not a real problem. So I think that the best for tackling that is to just to be ourselves, and to that's the best that we can do, and we are the best at that, right? Then the third thing is super important as well. I don't know how to set up boundaries. Like we need boundaries all the time, but anyone in our lives tell us how to do that. So it's super difficult, and boundaries are is super intimate related to how to say no, that we'll see later as well. Boundaries in the work environment is super important as well. And it shouldn't be so as something that we are attacking other people, because when someone says to you no, or when you are saying to someone, excuse me, but I don't like how you've been talking to me in that meeting, or I prefer if you talk to me in this way instead of that way. I will be more productive if you say to me things in this way instead of that way, because otherwise I get super stressed and I can't keep with my work. I think that that's important to be able to say in a work environment and in general in life. And that sometimes when someone says that something like that to us, we feel defensive. And I think that the more we practice to say up boundaries, the better we will feel, instead of feeling attacked, because it's not an attack. It's just like setting up boundaries is only to set up kind of rules for feeling better between us and avoid conflicts or future conflicts. And then I have low self esteem. Even the people with high self esteem have low self esteem. um, and this is very complicated because obviously each person is unique and we all have our problems in our lives and our insecurities and stuff again, because insecurities are so super related to low self esteem. But I think that sometimes with my employers, something that helped a lot, it was when I was feeling with a low self-esteem in my work, I found extremely useful that they appreciated my work. And this sounds obvious, but many leaders and many bosses out there don't really never have a nice word towards their employees. And in my opinion, that's a huge mistake, because we work through feedback, and it's obviously like we all of us we want to be recognized. And if a 1 year of work with a company, no one said to you, oh, this is great, or you're doing fine, or this is good. Obviously receiving critical feedback sometimes as well, because it's normal. But if you never encourage your employees, saying them the things that they do fine, um, we are not going never to give them the opportunity to feel good about their work. And I think that's extremely harmful for mental health. Then I don't know how to take care of myself. I think this is a big problem in the creative industries, but especially in the game industry. It seems obvious again. Like all of this seems super obvious, but it's not obvious because we don't do it. So in the last 2 years, through a super big crisis with my life and not knowing how to take care of myself properly and feeling sick all the time, I was trying to figure out how to take care of myself better. And later I will talk about this too. But for example, stuff like taking time off or having different hobbies apart from video games, if you're working games, it's extremely important. And also stuff like having proper meals, stuff like even though you work at home, that now like 90% of us, we are working from home, doing stuff like making your bed or brushing your teeth or taking a shower and put on clean clothes and clothes that you like, even though you are at home, but just for you, that's super important because like since we were born, we learned with like society kind of uh, made us learn that we need to do stuff for others, to dress up nicely for others, to have nice meals for keeping our shape, and doing a sport because of looking nicely, and that things are stupid. So we do things because we want to feel good with ourselves, because we want to be healthy, because we want to feel nice in our mental health. So we need to learn to do stuff for ourselves and not for the others. It's nice if you dress up nice for other people, but the first person that you need to please is you. So this is extremely important as well for feeling your best in your work environment. If you feel bad, what kind of work are you going to do? Like a bad work, obviously, like it's completely normal that if you don't feel good, you are unable to focus, you are probably not having the best ideas that you can have, and that's like a vicious cycle that will reproduce in many other fields in life. So it's super important that we uh, as employees know this, and the employers to also encourage employees to take care of themselves. And then the last one is I'm too harsh on myself. Probably all of us, we are our worst critics. And these days, I'm also learning that I'm too harsh on myself. And many times I think that what I do is completely bullshit. And then surprisingly, when I present my work to my colleagues or my bosses, it's all the contrary. They are super happy with what I've done. So I think we need to keep the balance. It's good to be sometimes a little bit critic with our job, obviously, because we want to be the best in what we do. But also, we need to review constantly how we talk to ourselves, and we need to be nice to ourselves. And I think if we tackle all of these points, and obviously there are more that I didn't mention, but many more, I think we will be able to have better companies, better leaders, and to make better games and creations as well. So this is the first point of my talk, a journey that starts with us, and really like is something that in my company in Three of Cups Games I encourage as well. Like sometimes when a person in in the studio is having a bad day, that person is completely uh, able to see to me that is not having a good day, and that it's because of mental health, for example. And I we see it as a normal thing, that nothing to be ashamed of, and that's fine. So I think that big companies and small companies should take an example on this, and to make people to be better themselves in order to be better at their work environments, but also to be better at their own lives, because work is not everything in our life. So then, these points is something that happens to everyone. And again, it's super harmful for you and others without treatment. This means that we are always worried about illnesses in the world. Now it's COVID, which is super important as well. But then there are many other stuff that we hear here and there. And the first thing that one of the things that we never hear about is mental health, and which is a big problem because it uh, comprises many stuff, like, for example, stress and anxiety, which are two things that happen a lot in the creative industries, or PTSD, and we never hear about it. And it's very important that we start talking more about these things and to be open. And I think it's gonna make a better environment to everyone. And then, how do we expect to build ethical and healthy environments if we carry all of these points to work? It's impossible. So then, this is the next point: how to shine more. This is also all things that I've been trying to do myself, practicing with my own advice. The first thing is listen to yourself. This is complicated because I don't know. Sometimes people that come from marginalized backgrounds, we've been gaslighting so many times that sometimes listening to yourself can be extremely difficult, because we constantly doubt about what we think, and we don't know if is this good, is this bad, am I thinking this because of this trauma, am I thinking that because of this bad experience, or is because it's true. It doesn't really matter, because it's important that we listen to ourselves independently of this thought comes from a bad experience or not. If it's bothering you, we need to pay attention to that and observe it and listen, and then get to know yourself. This is super important. It doesn't seem that any of these makes sense with our work, but I swear that it's super important to know all of these to make better work and better games. Then be yourself. Again, with the point that I was talking about in the last slide, I learned in the last year that as much I am myself, better things I'm able to do. So it would be mandatory to spend more time with ourselves. Then respect yourself. What does this mean? In the work environment, this means that, for example, and you can see that this is very related to low self-esteem, and as well with boundaries, and as well with insecurities. When I say respect yourself, I say that many times in the work environment, we let our bosses or other work colleagues to diminish ourselves, and to we let them to maybe talk to us in a bad way. And I think this is not something that we should allow to do. I think that it's extremely difficult, and I'm the first person struggling with it all the time. But we need to start um, supporting people that are able to speak their minds up, and don't let people that are trespassing our boundaries to trespass them. So this is respect yourself as well. We know that all of us, we are super valuable. So when we have a boss that is trespassing a boundary, we should be able to say to that person that we respect them. I know that that person is my boss, but I'm also a human being, and I don't like how are you treating me with this. So, this sounds like very reasonable, but it's completely difficult. It's as much as difficult as to ask for a holiday when you really need a holiday, or even imagine asking a boss for a mental health day. It's for lots of us, it's impossible. And I'm giving this talk and I'm encouraging you to do this, but I also understand that it's super difficult. And for me, many times in many work environments has been completely difficult to ask for a holiday, even if I needed it a whole lot and it was in my contract. So I understand you if you are at the moment saying like, nice, but I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then the last thing is be kind to yourself. Again, this is super important. I'm not able to do good work when I'm harsh on myself. If I'm all the time talking badly to me and saying like, oh, this mechanic that I thought about is shit, basically, they are going to think that I'm not a real game designer. I didn't do any flowchart to this or that. All of these things, I was not conscious that I was talking like that to myself. And then one day when I was very in like under the weather, thinking that some of my projects were not going super well in my part, I was noticing, okay, how I'm gonna be able to solve this problem if I'm all the time bothering myself saying that this is bad, this is horrible. Obviously, I'm feeling super stressed about this. So, we need to be kind to ourselves and to talk to ourselves as you would talk to other person. If a friend comes to you saying, "Oh, I'm not sure about this game mechanic. I'm feeling that it's not solid enough, or that it could be better," obviously you are the first thing that you say to that friend is not, "Oh, but maybe it's because you are a shitty game designer, a game developer, or a game person, so you should quit." Obviously we don't say that. So you need to be the same with yourself and to understand that many times we are not at our best, and there are different situations in our day to day that maybe make us not to have the best ideas, but that's fine. I think that the more relaxed we are, the better ideas we are going to have. So the better work we are going to do. And, it's again a cycle and many steps that we need to follow to reach that point. Then it leads to this slide. So this is something that I've been exploring in with Three of Cups as well in my own projects. People feeling better is equal to better leaders. People feeling better is equal to better work done. People feeling better is equal to better work environment. People feeling better is equal to better human beings, and people feeling better is equal to better games. So, I think not very often we see in the work environment employers and people caring about other people's mental health and physical health, because it's, for me, are the two things that are obviously super related. Um, and I think it's very important. And for example, we know that in the games industry, one of the hot topics is crunch, and I don't understand why. I mean, I understand that why we keep doing crunch, and why some studios decide to do that, and it's because sometimes when you miss a deadline, or you infuriate your games community and you don't want that, or it's because maybe you lose some funding if you don't reach that deadline, or maybe it's because um, sellings or agreements, or many things. So I understand that in part is capitalism that make us um, crunch, but I also think that the indie game studios, that we have more kind of um, freedom in tackling um, some rules in the game studios. We should start making the change and being the change. And also, I think we need to make understand the games community that making a game is not pressing the make a game button, and that making a game has a process, and that also, if game developers feel good, we are going to have better experiences in our games, and that's what the public wants, really. So I don't see what's wrong with taking care of the people we work with. And then we go directly to the work environment. And I love this meme because it summarizes all what I'm saying. That what if I told you your employees would work better if you didn't treat them like shit? So, but I don't know, but almost everyone has kind of like a past trauma with work environment, and this shouldn't be like that. Um, I think that work is obviously it's the place where we spend more hours at, and I think it should be a enriched experience, something that make us grow, and something that make us learn things, and also to connect with interesting people. And sometimes connecting with people that are not interesting is also interesting and useful, and make us learn valuable things and understand things of the world that otherwise we couldn't. So I don't understand why we don't try to make our work environment a better place. I've been working for many years, like since the beginning of my career, in many startups, not in the games industry. But I hate that many of the cool speech that startups start having about work environment, sometimes, at least in Spain, were only words. And I think we should make better efforts on integrating better the people in our companies, and obviously to make or to get our work done by following all, like, ethics and rules for making everyone to feel good. So then in the work environment, there's things that I've been seeing that works for doing better work is, first of all, empathy. I If you are a lead in a department, in a studio, or in whatever other company, related or not to the games industry, if you are not empathic, how are you going to understand what happens to your employees or work colleagues? It's impossible. So this is part of emotional intelligence as well, that we never learn that by ourselves. In childhood, we need to learn that by ourselves in our adulthood, because this is not taught in any place. So I think that for being a better leader, and a better human in general, you should train your empathy. It's super difficult, and it's a work that you need to do every single day, and you are going to make mistakes, of course, but that's part of the process. But it's super important that we understand why empathy is vital for managing better companies. Then kindness. I think kindness is equal to giving kindness is equal to receive kindness, and I think we should be kind to everyone, um, no matter what, and that we should treat everyone the way that we want to be treated. But this has some points as well, because this is also a complicated thing, because it kind of collides in some way with boundaries, because sometimes if someone trespasses your boundaries, I understand that sometimes you are not able to be all the kind that you want and keep your cool. So like, in some way this sounds like a very Instagram sentence, but in the other way, we are also human, and we need to see who is treating us well and kind of deserves our kindness, and what's the other person that needs to have, that you need to put more boundaries with, because it's being too much. Then support. I think we need to encourage support between us in the work environment, from bosses to employees, like from the top to the down to the bottom. Support is very important, and feel supported in the work environment totally makes a difference. Then emotional intelligence, again, in general, this is something that I keep not understanding why we don't learn about this since we start receiving an education, because emotional intelligence comes with everything. Like, how do you socialize with other people? How do you treat others? How do you manage your emotions? Yeah. And then good leaders and managers. This is super important. I think I can say that almost everyone has had bad experiences with good leaders and managers, and sometimes this is super harmful. Um, so I think we need to be super careful when we hire leaders, because this is gonna is it makes the difference 100%. And we also need to be super careful if we lead departments and companies, because sometimes you can inspire people a whole lot, or you can ruin your lives, like their lives. So it's a very important role that we need to have prepared people to do and to deal with it. Then time off. Again, this sounds obvious, but it's not super obvious. I struggle a whole lot taking time off. And as I say here, taking time to yourself is fundamental to be a better game developer and to survive. And then find things that passionate you outside games. I think I'm not super. I heard a lot of people recommending to schedule time off in your calendar, so you are always sticking to that. To me, it doesn't really work. So what I've been doing is kind of being super consistent with the days off that I have during the week. There are normally two, and to try to accept that days I'm not going to do any work. And sometimes if a message comes to my Slack, or to my or an email, I need to make a big effort to not answer, and to this switch off from work. It's very difficult, but it's very important, because otherwise, when you grow and you start kind of people are starting to be interested on you, you receive many emails, many messages, many distractions, and it's super important that we take serious the time off, because it makes a big difference when we work, and also in our day to day, and uh, how we feel, obviously, and how we treat other people. In then is the underrated and underused word, no? So this is, again, a thing that seems obvious, but it's not obvious, and I struggle a whole lot to say no to friends, to partners, to parents, to work colleagues. Obviously, when we say no, it sounds like we are going to it sounds like we are going to be rude, and it's not rude or selfishness. Like, you can say no super polite, but it's something that we're still struggling with, and it's very related to boundaries again. And I think that sometimes it can happen that we um, that is too hard to hear no, but we need to habituate ourselves to get used to it, and to see it as a normal thing that people can say to us no, and it's okay. It's not a drama. And then again, give kindness and you'll receive kindness. This is, I say here, that it doesn't really matter at what point you are in your career. Never forget that one day you were also a beginner who didn't know what the fuck was doing. Many times you probably still don't know, but who knows really. So basically, this when I was writing this slide, I was thinking a lot on students, that many times seniors and companies don't treat students very well, and I think we should be kind, because we don't know who we have in front of us, or if, but that doesn't really matter. Like, I think we should treat the people that are going to be in the future well, and to make them feel important, because they are. So I feel super sad when many times people I see people treating badly students just because they are juniors. So like, I think in the games industry we are too much attached to the idea of a senior, and I think we should stop labeling people that way. And I understand that experience is very important and valuable, but I also think that if anyone gives an opportunity to a junior person or a student, how we pretend that they are going to excel in the future if we don't give them the opportunity to learn anything. Then it was recently a debate on Twitter that a super good UX UI designer, Faber Curiel, she she wrote a statement saying that studios should consider hiring more often juniors and students, because at the moment, all like the 90% of the offers that you can see uh, for working on games, they are always asking for senior or mid-level seniors. So where many students feel blocked when they see all of that, they don't think they are able to apply to anything, because they think that they just don't have the skills, so they are not going to do that, and it's like a waste of time. And then it was very interesting to see all the responses that Faye received, because you could see that many people were saying yes to that, but then you saw other indie people with tight budgets saying that yes to hire juniors, but also when you're struggling with budget, it's complicated that you go for the junior person instead of the senior person. So I think it's like every person has kind of the reason, but generally I also think that it's important that we give to more juniors the opportunity. For example, at Three of Cups, we had um, a trainee from a university in Spain that couldn't find a traineeship in any other place because of COVID crisis. So we had them in the studio, and it was extremely talented. It was not a surprise because we got them on board because we saw the amazing portfolio that this person had, and it was incredible for in the sense for a student because like it was a very good portfolio and super strong, and this person helped us a whole lot during 3 months and with the game that we are developing. So then I also talking to other founders of game studios. They were also saying that hiring juniors and students were the best that they could do because at that point maybe they didn't have money for hiring seniors or other kind of professionals. So they partner with universities in the UK, and they got on board some juniors. So the uni was paying these students for working for them, while they were having students that were super cool for helping with the games that they were making. So like there are many kind of opinions, but I generally think that it's super important that we give kindness to juniors, and then also to give kindness in our work environments. I think it's lovely when you have a work colleague that, for example, asks you how are you in the morning, or if your work colleagues know that you are struggling with that, they um, ask you about it. Maybe sometimes you just don't want to talk about it, but just the fact that one person from your work environment um, cared about you, I think that's very important when you start the day. And also, as I said before, again, we spend in our workplaces like more than the half of the time during the week. So like the better we try to be in our work environments, the better we are going to feel in general, and again, better experiences we'll make. Then, for talking a little bit about my games studio, so I already told you a few things, but we are Three of Cups, which is an ethical, diverse, and inclusive games studio based in London, UK, but we are really remote. We are. I'm Spanish, and then Fede, our programmer, he is from Italy, but he lives in London. Then Michelle, our amazing concept artist, she is based in Canada, in Toronto, but she is half Vietnamese. Then Oda, our audio designer, she is from Oslo, from Norway. And then Marie, our most recent addition to the team, she's French, but she lives in Oslo as well. And then we have also Danny, who was this student that I told you before that it was incredible, that they is based in Madrid, in Spain. So, we are super diverse and open. And the first thing that I wanted to have in a game studio when I founded one, it was to have people from many different backgrounds, and that could help us to make experience that were owned by many people, because I think that having different people with different lives and experiences and from different backgrounds is not it's going to enrich the experience a whole lot, because otherwise we will tend to make the same game again and again and again. And above all, if you are making games based on emotions like we are doing a Three of Cups, we need to have many different people from many different backgrounds and to do our job well. And then we are specialized in emotions. And then our biggest challenge would be to make games for everyone. And I hope that we make it. So for managing Three of Cups, basically the best things that I learned in the last couple of months have been, one, to have weekly meetings with the whole team, and to decide between all of us all the things. So, obviously we are all experts in our own fields, but that doesn't mean that we can't hear opinions from other people from other departments. Like, for example, sometimes I have an idea in game design and I present it to the whole team. It doesn't matter if they are audio designers or programmers or artists. So all of us, we can have our say. And for example, maybe our audio designer is able to give an idea that I'm able to polish because I'm the game designer, but that idea came from that person. So if I never consider to share with my team my ideas, I'm never going to have different ideas that maybe I can polish as a game designer. So I think it's super important to get everyone involved and to make everyone to feel important and listen in the team. And then another thing is to have one-on-one meetings with everyone. So at the moment we are kind of taking a break because of the summer, but we started making one-on-one meetings on July, and it was super helpful because many times people just don't say many things when they are in group because they feel embarrassed or they just don't want to interrupt or they are shy. So it's good to have at least 15 minutes with everyone to maybe sometimes it's been for talking about the game, but sometimes we also talk about our personal lives and how we were doing, if everything is good. And I found this super helpful. And then generally, I kind of escape from these companies that say that the company is like a big family because it's a little bit cringe and creepy. But I think that the leaders of our companies should be people that are open to the other work colleagues. So, for example, if my colleagues at Three of Cups have any kind of problem in their personal lives, that even maybe they don't want to share it with me, but they need to know that I'm there for them if they need me. So, it's just to give a hand, to offer a hand if they need it, and they can take it or not. And that was all from me. I hope you enjoy the talk, and I hope that this was useful. And you can reach me on Twitter always at nympha_dp, or my email that you have there, or you can follow me on my itch.io page.
Thank you so much, Marina. That was wonderful. It was a really relatable talk. I appreciate your candidness and honesty. Yeah, what you shared today, it was a really good reminder for everybody, and to find a way to put yourself first. And I want to open up the floor for anyone in the room who has any questions for you. That's great, Albertine. Thanks. Albertine, are there any topics within the conversation of ethics that you feel are ignored or not discussed enough in the game industry?
Absolutely. I think there are many, because ethics is not it's not a thing that we really talk about it, I think, openly. I understand, I understand that many people, for example, need to crunch because sometimes it's the only way that we reach what we want to reach, our goals in our games studios. Like, for example, I'm not free of crunch. I've been working in the last 2 months on the weekends because otherwise I don't reach my goals. But that's something that I do myself. But it's not something that I should ask for to my work colleagues. So, or my employees. Like, I do it because I want to, so I know the consequences that I'm going to have in my health if I do that for a long time. But it's not something that, as a boss, I should expect from my colleagues. Then other things that we've been ignoring crunch for many long time. Other ethics that we ignore and not discuss enough are harassment in the work environment, trespassing boundaries. That when we think about boundaries, we think about very kind of bad things, like the worst things that can happen when you trespass a boundary. Like, for example, I don't know, like touching a work colleague or whatever, like super sensitive things. But boundaries are also things that can be very small. Thanks, Tara. So I think that we should be able to talk more about boundaries in our work environments. And then other ethics that we don't talk about is diversity, but that's a very sensitive topic that studios that don't have diversity don't want to hear about because they feel attacked. And I don't know if in other countries happen, but in Spain happens all the time that you can. I've been having friends, very good friends, that their studios were only males. And if you try to avoid the topic, like, well, maybe you should get on board someone else, like from another background, it's kind of like a very like a taboo. So you can say anything. So yeah, like absolutely, there are many ethics that are ignored in the games industry. It also depends a lot on the games studio, but I think we've been seeing better companies growing up in the last couple of times. For example, to my mind comes True founded by Brie Code. I think this is a great example. Also, Brie works a whole lot. But again, I think it's a thing that she does herself personally. But I don't think that Brie expects from her employees to do the same, which is great, and it's what it should be. And then, yeah, no problem, Ahmedin. And then Rebecca, what do you find was the biggest obstacle in setting up a positive atmosphere when starting a new studio? Did you find you had to break down existing habits? Mm, I think, like, well, the biggest obstacle that we have is, of course, that we are not all in the same room. So, like setting up a positive atmosphere over Slack is complicated, but also there are things that are possible to do. For example, we didn't have really lots of time in the last months because of COVID, and people were feeling down naturally because it was a very complicated situation. But some things that we've been thinking about is, for example, to meet everyone to play some games together over the internet, or just to um, maybe connect all together to co-work, even if it was in other projects. And then, yeah, I think that was like the biggest thing, that our biggest problem. And then also that writing, when you have a remote team, is super difficult when you are writing, because sometimes things are can be misunderstood, the tone that you put in your words. So that's something that we need to take account of when we talk to other people, that we need to be conscious that our words can be misunderstood sometimes. So I think it's good that we think on the how are we talking to others, even if we, like trying to talk nicely. I think we need to be extra careful with that. And then, did you find you had to break down existing habits? Like, yeah, like for example, in my case, I needed to break down the existing habit of thinking that I don't do enough. So, as many weeks, my own team were saying to me, like, you are overworking, stop. So, I think all of us, we have our past experiences, and I think we need, obviously, we can uh, kind of try to solve all the single problem that a coworker or an employee has. But I think we need to kind of solve that harmful experiences, and to make the space a safer space, and to make them to see that like we are all here for everyone, so they can be um, safe with us. And yeah.
For that. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, Dan has a question. He's typing now.
Thank you so much, Tamara.
While we're waiting for Dan, I had a quick question. It's a little bit around hiring practices. When you're looking to build a studio or a team, and you're setting expectations so that your team can meet those expectations, do you are you quite forthright either in the agreement, the hiring agreement, or any paperwork, what those expectations are? Or is it typically a discussion that you have?
So basically, it's something that we talk together always. but also it's something that not super specific in the contract, but it's then something that we talk together later. Like we see, obviously the things that are in the contract that we make is how much time are you able to put into the work that needs to be done, what kind of things are you comfortable with working, and what is not. Because, for example, there are people that are better at some things and better at others. Like, for example, me as a game designer, um, I'm better at creating environments and game feel. So, for example, if you expect from me to make something super analytical, I mean, I'm able to do it, but maybe I'm not the best at doing that. So I think that should be something that we would need to discuss between us. And then in Three of Cups, the hiring process is kind of like I'm super careful on the new people that I get on board. And until now, I've been super lucky that, except from Michelle, the rest of the people that we have at the team were my friends already, and then were people that eventually said to me that they wanted to work with me for this project when I talk about it with them. So like they obviously is much easier to talk to a friend about expectations and how can you make them feel more comfy because you already know them as well than to a stranger. But if a new person that I'm not friends with is gonna get on board in the games studio, I would always ask first what they feel comfy with, and then we'll see together what's doable, what's not doable, and yeah, and to establish an agreement between us, and then week per week to see how everything is going and if they need more help with or not, or if they are feeling good.
So we do have a question from Dan. How do you make business decisions that employees may disagree with or are unhappy with?
So the thing is that when we have business decisions, we talk about it, all of us together, and no one is left behind with business decisions. Obviously, I'm kind of have like a more my opinion has more weight in some way because I'm already a kind of experiencing business before, but that doesn't mean that my word is set on stone. So I always try to listen very carefully to all the reasons that the team gives to an opinion that they are disagreeing with or that they are happy about it. But for me, it's very important that all of them feel good. So if they would think that all of them that something related to business is very bad to the business, I wouldn't keep going with that. Like, for example, in the last couple of months, for saying something like that is based on real facts, we had a deadline for finishing the prototype and to then be able to send it to publishers. And we had not a very tight deadline, but it was in June. We established that deadline before COVID, and then COVID happened, and obviously COVID made everything to be more slow. And then happened that some of our members of the team had more work, and that deadline was not reachable anymore. And obviously, we need more funds and more money. But for me, it's more important to that everyone feels happy with the team and the game and the studio better than if we are going to reach a deadline. Because like if I don't feel that I'm entitled to push the team to a thing if they have many other things to do or they are feeling bad with their health. So we push the deadline and we put a new deadline after that. So like we maybe are not in time, or maybe we are not receiving that fund just right now, but at least I think they feel better when we kind of make these decisions.
Cool. Looks like Rebecca has another question. What games do you recommend for team building meetings?
I think For team building meetings, I think that, for example, I think it's great to have games like, well, now the recent Fall Guys. I think it's a good example. And then also we've been playing. I forgot the name now. Um, ah, don't remember now. But it was the game made by the Celeste creators before Celeste. Towerfall. Towerfall is great as well. And then maybe Overcooked, but it's a little bit stressful. And then I also think that maybe it could be super good to ask the team members what are the games they love to play. And then I also hear that I didn't do it at Free of Cups, but I hear from other friends that they've been having team meetings on Animal Crossing. So I think that could be super nice to have all the team members in Animal Crossing. I also had a friend that their studio couldn't celebrate that they like a launch game, and they all made at Animal Crossing, so they had kind of like a meetup there. It was very nice, and also this publisher, Callum Knights, they celebrated the games that they signed over the last 5 years on Animal Crossing. So seems like a strong game to play with your team. Albertine, I recently played Keep Talking Nobody Explodes, and it was amazing experience. Yeah, I played that game as well, and it's super exciting to be played with a group of friends or a team. Uh, yeah, I don't think that competitive games are bad at all. I think like if you, I mean, uh, generally I don't like competition a whole lot, but I think that sometimes it could be fun. Like for example, in the case of Fall Guys, it's pure competition, but it's kind of like a nice competition in some way.
Does anyone else have any other questions today? Okay, well, great. I think we're right on the hour. Before we sign off, a big thank you again, Marina.
Thank you so much. It was very nice.
Wonderful. You're lovely. And thank you to our funding partners for helping make today possible, and everyone who came to the talk today for taking the time to join us. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our newsletter to stay tuned for upcoming announcements about our other speakers, and make sure to check out the New Media Manitoba YouTube channel for previous recordings. Also, a quick plug for Marina. I believe you're having an Emotions and Feelings Jam in a week. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's the Emotions and Feelings Jam is coming on the 1st of September. So next week, oh my God. And the topic is friendship. So I hope that we have many cute, nice games for the friends that we can see at the moment. So yeah,